All right, three, two, one. Hello, everybody. Oh boy, what a great start to the decade. This is So That Happened, and I'm joined by my good old friends. Introduce yourselves, guys.
I'm Emperor Tiger Star. Maps. Ugh.
And I'm Tristan from
And,
StepBackHistory.com.
and we're here to discuss the plotline of Battlefield 4. Um, yeah, so that's a lot of things have happened since our last podcast, which is fun. Uh, we'll talk about the good old British election later, but we have more pressing, fun things to talk about. Uh, First, Iran. Oh boy, guys. Anything you want to vent off your chest right off the bat, and then we'll get into more good old details.
Well, it's
2003.
interesting that I've gotten both a huge spike in search traffic for my video on the Iranian Revolution and my video on neoconservatism. And both are tied directly to this news thing breaking out. So we'll see who wins.
We'll see who wins.
Man, I haven't even checked my analytics for that.
Yeah. So outside of analytics, though, you're good.
Oh, man. Damn. Okay. This is like one of the biggest foreign policy dumbass moves that the United States has done in American history. And
There we go.
yeah,
There we go. That's a classic person.
and that's saying a lot too.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. This is it's funny because we've probably done 3 or 4 of these, shits going down streams, over the last year, 2 years. We've done 4 of them at least. This feels different for me for a little bit. I don't know if it's because, things have already happened, like actual dramatic things have already happened that there's no going back from now. So it's not like it'll just calm down. Uh it's not like I for one, I don't think this is going to actually escalate into like a full war with Iran. I don't think it's going to escalate into like World War III or boots on the ground in Iran. I don't think we're at that point yet. Watch as I, am proven wrong like my last video was. But this definitely is now going to lead to Iraq just collapsing in a proxy war. Like just
Yeah, this is
one
definitely
attack.
like I could definitely see more of a war in Iraq happening out of this, just because for those who don't know, Iraq, after the strong central government that was one of the most progressive in the entire Middle East, collapsed in 2003 because something, I can't remember exactly what happened. My vision's a little bit blurry about that part. But now Iraq has kind of collapsed into this sectarian warfare. And Iraq was basically like Yugoslavia, being multiple different religious factions and ethnic groups being held together by a strongman dictator, collapses. And now US, famous country for being able to put countries back together, has just been kicked out as of today.
Technically, if you think about it, Trump did get us out of Iraq. Oh boy, task failed
Yep.
This is like a
successfully.
reality TV
Now
plot
for
twist.
anyone who's new, to the game,
Yeah,
Iran and Saudi Arabia are two poles going on in like a sort of Middle Eastern Cold War between predominantly Shia and Sunni Islam, but there's a lot of overlap, so it's not exactly fitting on. But now Iraq, ever since the fall of Saddam Hussein's government, for reasons that, of course, we have no idea about, it's now turned into a place where once the U.S. is out of the picture, a full-on proxy war is probably going to take place.
yeah, and this is it's insane that like this is the 2 decades of like the rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia. I did not expect it to actually start so soon. Like it's like as soon as the decade happens, like boom, right off, right off to it. And all it took was just one blatant assassination for everybody to start getting into a tizzy, and then
And
sudden
to
mobilization. It's great.
to like put it in perspective, if this would have been any other country, war would have already broken out.
Yeah,
As
Yeah,
in, like, if someone besides the United States would have done it, because, like, to put it in perspective, the guy that they killed, while he was leading paramilitary forces outside of the country and supporting other groups, he was still a top general of the country. So, for a comparison, imagine if during the Cold War, an American general was killed by a Soviet airstrike in Mexico and the Soviet excuse was, well, he funded South Korea against my allies, so
Yeah.
we felt it was justified to kill him. We would have gone nuts. And that's basically what we're doing. We did an act of war, and that's why everyone is freaking out about it being World War III. If it weren't for the fact that any war would just kill so many people and collapse so many local economies.
It's
Well,
also
also,
next level special that oh man. So I don't know if you saw this Twitter thread by Mike Pence, the vice president, and the fact that this is happening on Twitter, that real geopolitics are happening on Twitter, which is another
yeah, we'll
okay,
get to that. We'll get to that.
darkest timeline shit.
Yeah.
But try to make the claim that Soleimani, the top brass, the head of the Iranian military, was involved with the September 11th attacks committed by a group of Saudi-funded Salafi extremists, who are very much. It'd be like if the Pope was somehow organizing the KKK, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So that, and they're trying to push that, and I know you two are babby, so you might not remember this time when last time when America was just getting their war boner up and running, but man, I'm getting some real similar vibes.
I'm shocked that they didn't even bother to make a new terrorist threat. They killed the guy before there was actually the terrorist attack, and then they kind of had to pull out. Ah, shit. What can we use to the American public to show that this guy was a big deal? Let's do 9/11. Let's just say he did 9/11, even though they're completely different political, factions and stuff. And technically, Iran hates Saudi Arabia. No, let's just say that they did it.
You see, Trump is a neocon. Yeah. The neocons wait for an excuse, but the next natural evolution is no excuse.
You gotta just go immediately, which I guess we'll get to. So to sum up the last 2 days, so basically the Iranian general gets assassinated. Iranian militias mobilize, and effectively the militias have declared war on the United States. Iran itself hasn't done anything yet, but we don't know what they're going to do. After America did
we
this,
should clarify that these groups are basically Iraqis and Iranians in Iraq that just took matters into their own hands.
Yeah, they're proxies because they're based, they're influenced by Iran, and they're doing Iran's bidding.
Is it too awkward of a reference for people to talk about this is kind of like the people who did the Donetsk Republic, who tried to separate from Ukraine?
Actually, that's a perfect analogy. No, that's a perfect analogy. Yeah, it's or I mean, fuck, they're even kind of like what are they called? The Confederates.
Oh, that was just back in 2014, and some people in the chat probably weren't born yet at that point.
Oh god. But anyway, yeah, they're factions that are loyal to Iran, and Iraq has basically become just this battleground between the Sauds in the south and Iran. But after this happened, Iran didn't even respond militarily yet, and the U.S. then assassinated 2 more guys, which I was shocked. I was shocked that happened right off the bat. I was like, oh, you got to give them a little bit of time to retaliate. And so then Iran started mobilizing missiles, and I think it's happening right now. Missiles are being set up in some portion of Iraq and Syria, and Israel itself might mobilize and take out those missiles tomorrow or the next day. So if anything's going to heat up, it's going to be there or in Beirut, because Hezbollah said that they're mobilizing in Beirut, which is fun. An Iranian embassy was just burnt down an hour or 2 ago, which is fun, and also led to firing on crowds. It was just some small city. I think it was in North Iraq. But Sunni mobs burned down a Shia Iranian embassy. And now we get to good old Twitter, because Donnie Boy has been tweeting a lot. People got pissed that he didn't inform anybody except for Israel that he was going to assassinate this general. So in retaliation, not only did he say America can, basically do whatever it wants to Iran, and we'll blow up 52 Iranian sites. We also have a $2 trillion budget on our military, so don't mess with us. And then this afternoon he said, this is my information to the Congress. I'm informing you that basically if Iran does anything, I'm going to do something, and this is my forewarning to you. He did this all over Twitter. So it's hilarious that this garbage site of Twitter now has historical precedent if this expands. And that
don't forget, like, there's a gem on top of all this. Part of his announcement of how he would retaliate if Iran retaliates to the thing that they did, to the instigation they did, involved not one but two war crimes.
Yeah.
First of all, aggressive war. No, 3 war crimes. Aggressive war, 4 war crimes. I'm really sorry. Aggressive war, war for revenge, attacking cultural sites, and attacking civilian centers.
I don't even know like you can. I mean, shit, like, we never even had this shit with Iraq. We never had this shit with Iraq. We never had this shit with Afghanistan. Even after 9/11,
Well,
there wasn't even that rhetoric.
With Iran.
No, we had
like,
idiots. We had, like, idiots, like, we got to nuke them and shit like that. But we never had Bush saying, like, we're going to obliterate, the actual cultural stuff of these people.
I will say there is some evidence that he did pull that shit behind closed doors. Because
I wouldn't
as you guys know, Georgie Jr. is a hardcore evangelical Christian, and one of the things that he tried to do to get Jacques Chirac, who I found out died in 2019, to get him on board was to call him up. Jacques Chirac was the president of France, for anybody in the chat, because I remember now I'm ancient. Jacques, he basically talked about like Mammon and like about like biblical prophecies of cleansing in like the Middle East or something like that as like his reason to try to convince a normal human being in the 21st century to commit his troops to war.
That's weird. Oh, well, that's fun. But anyway, I mean, either way, that still wasn't the the public actual thing, and it's fun because that's like we're talking about trying to de-escalate the situation. Normally this stuff does de-escalate, and maybe it will de-escalate, but the last day has done nothing to help it. Iran is
because not only those things, they're repurchasing their centrifuges, so they basically completely abandoned the nuclear
which they were still following even after we left, because there were other people who signed the deal besides us and Iran.
Yeah. Yep. So now they're ramping up their nuclear weapons development program, and and also just to mention, just so before we talk about this, Iran is an ally with both China and the Russian Federation. Just putting that out there.
They're an ally. Okay. One, I don't want to do the World War III meme, but they're an ally. But Russia and China are not going to go to bat for Iran if America is even dumb enough to do this stuff. I think what Russia likes is they like sitting back and they like watching America just implode on this shit. I have a feeling that Putin, if he's going to do anything, is just going to funnel weapons into Iran, and that's going to be the most he can do. China's probably just going to laugh at it. I doubt anyone would want to actually go to war with the United States over Iran. I doubt.
No, I do think though that I don't even think they would need the weapons. I think that if you end up in like actual, which is an unlikely situation, like land war, American invasion of Iran would win.
I mean, well, especially geographically. I mean, I'm guessing
their whole
maybe people here have
high ground.
Yeah, maybe people here haven't, heard or anything. Yeah, Iran is just a giant plateau, and it is a series of mountains with cities in the valleys. It is Afghanistan on steroids, and it's bigger than Afghanistan too. It's the size of from Ireland to Italy. And imagine controlling all of that, half of Europe, and it's all mountains. And also 80 million people all hate you.
And also the entire country has been preparing for American invasion since the 1970s and has been doing war games to prepare for just said scenario as recently as like 2 months ago.
Yeah. That's the reason why I feel like America is smart enough to not invade. Like, we're not going to invade.
The problem is that is a thing that would be true if we lived in normal world where countries acted like rational actors. But we don't live in normal world. That's why things are so weird.
I'm
Because like in a normal world, this wouldn't have happened at all. But now Donald Trump is president, and he just does random dumb shit, and this could end up like he could just do a dumb shit and end up in World War III.
I feel like if this escalates anywhere, it's gonna escalate with Israel. Like that's if somebody's going to do something to Israel, either Iran or Hezbollah or something, and that's where this is going to all start off with. And then if that happens, or if Israel takes action first, then we're fucked. Then it's like, oh shit, now there's actual
Keep in mind
legit
also
regime
that
change we need to do now. Or they'll
America has a
what
vice
they'll say.
president, secretary of education, and trying to think if there's a third person
Because we got to
who
follow
all
Israel.
want
Oh boy.
who literally want to have that happen because then they can create the end times where like 7-headed dragons start showing up and weird shit, I don't know, left behind type crap.
Well, also the fun thing is, I mean, good old Benny Netanyahu, he's on a good old scandal right now, isn't he? He's about to be thrown in jail. This is pretty convenient for him.
Yeah,
so
I saw an interesting video about like how like impeachments in different countries work, and apparently like Israel has like the constitution where like basically you do any crime as president and you get convicted, you are forcibly removed automatically.
yeah.
So if he's convicted for the crime that he's been officially accused of, then he will be physically removed from office.
So we have two world leaders, or two countries with leaders who are relatively shaky in the future of their career. We have a king who has spent the last 4 years silencing any dissidents and has now expanded the ideology of his kingdom across the Middle East. And we also have this perfect setting with two countries which are extremely destabilized and are perfect meeting grounds for all these different ethnic groups and ideologies that all come together. And also the United States is now being kicked out of the only place left they are in the Middle East that isn't the Gulf.
Don't you love that right now, that in this extremely tense geopolitical situation, that the most rational, level-headed world leader involved might be the Ayatollah fucking Khamenei?
That's insane. I mean, like, I know people. One, I'm gonna say this, that Iran is a terrible regime. Like, they're an absolutely terrible fucking regime. They jail women and and gays and all that stuff. It's despotic.
They're a right-wing extremist theocracy.
Yes, they're a theocracy. Saudi Arabia is just as much, if not worse. But also Iran. The thing is, I give Iran credit because they're playing the biggest global power in the world like it's fucking pinball. They're
definitely playing some big BDE right now.
Yeah, it is insane. And yes, one of their guys got killed, but by having just one of their generals get killed, it has started this catalyst where the U.S., after 20 years, is getting kicked out of their neighboring country that they can now take control of. Like, this
Another thing that's also poking up from underneath with some of the words that are coming out, it's not like official, but there's a pretty good evidence that they've been calling around to all their allies, and the U.S. has realized that they're completely isolated and that they have burnt all of their bridges over the Trump administration. Like, pants down. There's no coalition of the willing anymore.
I wouldn't
even going to get those monkeys from Palau this time.
I mean, I wouldn't
Germany and France said no. I'm pretty sure Canada said no, although don't quote me on that. And the opposition parties of Britain have said no, and then Boris Johnson has just been completely silent. And the only one who would basically come to our aid is Israel, and that's it.
I just want to clarify, because I realized that what I said could be really taken out of context. Palau actually offered to donate mine detecting monkeys when they were going to help the U.S. in Iraq.
Thanks, Palau. We appreciate that. That's great. Yeah, no, I mean,
Lamau.
That's terrible. We're gonna just end the live stream right now because of that.
Look, if the world is going to end, I want to go down on a happy note.
Yeah, no, okay, the world's So, I think so what do you guys think? Like, we're gonna theorize right now. We're gonna have a little theorizing strategy. So best case scenario, what goes on now? Like, say the dumb tweets stop somehow, which they're not. Actually, this is already unrealistic of a scenario. Say that Iran ignores the dumb tweets. What's the best case scenario for the region right now? Nothing else happens. There's
Since the troops are leaving, it kind of gets into a situation where both countries realize they have nothing to gain, and so this just becomes a bunch of finger wagging and fist shaking, and then we just slowly forget about it whenever the next dumb thing happens. Like with North Korea.
I think best situation, someone from the Pentagon comes to the White House, closes the door, and has a very sincere heart-to-heart with the president to tell him that starting a third world war will not work out well for him, and finds a way for him to save face and say that he didn't feel like invading Iran anyway.
I guess that could work. I think I'm a bit more cynical. I think we're already even best case scenario if nothing happens right now, Iraq is already fucked. Like, we basically sparked another sectarian war because even without the U.S. influence, there's going to be fighting between the Sunnis and Shia. And
although, as far as I know, Iran is in a pretty good position to win said conflict.
Yeah, they probably are. So I mean that
because Iraq is majority Shia, and they always had been. It so happened that Saddam Hussein was Sunni.
So if anything, Iraq would just become a buffer state for Iran. That's it.
Yeah. So the overall geopolitical goals, if you think about the whole thing with Iraq started as a secular, run by Sunni but Shia majority state that was opposed to American hegemony but kind of didn't take a side in the Middle Eastern Cold War, to now a very likely Iranian proxy or Iranian aligned state. So more to the side that the U.S. doesn't take. So I'm doing a thumbs up right now.
I mean, honestly, I want just troops out of Iraq, so I don't, fine. If it doesn't lead to greater conflict, yeah, whatever. We're out. Then we just get out of Afghanistan and screw it. And, ISIS...
Just watch. They're going to be permanently stationed in Kuwait.
Yeah, okay, I don't care. Honestly, if they're stationed in Kuwait or whatever, as long as, they're just out of Iraq and just out of that whole thing, and maybe it'll lead to stability, who knows. But it's like
U.S. leaving the region would probably be one of the greatest things you could do to increase stability.
It depends on how it happens. It depends on how Iran handles it. If they can handle it successfully and still defeat ISIS, like, people are saying, oh, the U.S. is leaving, there's going to be an ISIS resurgence. Even if there is, Assad is still winning in Syria, and the Kurds are very effective. There's no way that ISIS is going to rise to the ranks that it once did.
Turkey will instead.
Yeah. There's also a big issue with the fact that the military that was fighting ISIS in a big way just lost their top general recently. I don't know if you heard about.
Oh, ha ha. Funny. It's a big funny. Right there.
Well, also, because of the events that happened with Iran, the European forces that were still in the Middle East combating ISIS, or at least what very little left was it, they officially had to stop their operations to protect their own embassies in the region because they were worried that they were going to get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah. Speaking of Turkey, because we already said Turkey, Turkey has sent troops into Libya today, so that's fun.
The Ottoman Empire's coming back, baby.
Yeah, it's probably not going to lead to anything because Libya's basically been out of... Everyone's just ignored Libya since Gaddafi died.
And to give Erdogan like a little bit of a pass, like, it is under a UN-led effort.
Yeah, so it's like people are trying to say, oh, it's like expanding. No, it's not expanding. It's two completely unrelated fights. They're happening to take place at the same time.
Middle East, Syria, they're expanding into.
Yeah, Syria. I mean, we've already talked about Syria many times. That whole fun
Poor
thing.
Rojava.
Plus, people don't just do that anymore. I mean, with the exception of Russia in 2014, people don't just conquer regions anymore. It's not like the freaking 1840s or whatever.
You have proxies, you have buffers, and it's like even when Turkey moved into Rojava and the Kurds and shit like that. They're like, oh, we're not taking the territory. We're creating a buffer zone. So the YPK or, they can't come in and all that fun jazz.
Just watch.
Yeah.
While we're all distracted by this, Russia's going to take another province from Ukraine.
We'll just take all of Eastern Europe.
For every geopolitical thing Trump starts, he just takes another chunk of Ukraine while he's not looking.
It's like, hey, what'd you do? And he just keeps going.
What are you talking about? This has always been Russian.
Yeah.
Look, see, even the people here speak Russian. Oh, that makes.
But this is the best case scenario, and I think this is the most realistic scenario, because I think Trump might just get bored. Maybe he's just like, okay, I got troops out of Iraq. That's a win.
Also, in 12 months, he might just not be president. Inshallah.
I mean, because when's the troops get out in a year, right? Like that was the thing. I know it was a non-binding. I don't know if it was a legal thing. Like U.S. troops are officially out of Iraq, but it's like it was basically the best way Iraq could say get out. What?
Like the question is whether we're even going to listen to.
Yeah, Pompeo had a weird fucking interview today. He was like, they were like, the interviewer was like, what do you think about Iraq saying, we don't want troops in here anymore or to get out? And he basically said the equivalent of, oh, Iraq didn't say that. And the reporter kind of just looked at him like, what? And he's like, yeah, no, Iraq didn't say that. Iraq didn't mean it. They're an Iranian proxy
like
now.
Range comics. You remember that one of the lady just looking like, what?
Yeah, it's like Iraq probably, yeah, they're Shia controlled. They probably are an Iranian proxy now, but that's still the government now. Like, that's like, they're still telling you to leave. And it's like, even if it is, they are a proxy and they're telling you to leave. You can't just say, because the way that he was acting like it is he was saying, like, the Iraq government itself is controlled by Iran, and we need to be there to liberate the Iraqi people, as in like the Sunni minority, from Iraq's Shia government. That's
so
what he was acting.
Pompeo's the new Saddam Hussein.
That's what he was acting. He was acting like we basically this wasn't. It was like how we were going into Iraq and was saying this place needs democracy. It has democracy now, and it's not the democracy that we want. But it's like, we don't want you anymore, and now we're basically going, no, okay, you're against the side of freedom now. And he said,
can you imagine
freedom.
if their end game is they put in a strongman Sunni dictator in Iraq?
That would be the perfect way to cap off all of this. That's the Star Wars fucking original trilogy.
Well,
it's now back.
Iraqi wars, they rhyme. That's the genius of our story. So whenever we put a straw man back in Iraq, it's like the original trilogy with Saddam Hussein.
It's
we're
pottery.
Rhyming.
It's good old pottery right there. Oh boy.
Iraq 3: Revenge of the Dicks.
I would laugh so hard if in 10 years that's the end game from all of this. The U.S. somehow overthrows the Shia-dominated government, maybe goes to war with Iran, and then in the end they just create a fucking another Saddam Hussein. Start it all over.
It'd be even funnier if the leader was neither Shia nor Sunni.
Oh,
I guess it'd be funny if it wasn't.
If they're a Kurd,
that means that millions of people are going to die in the process.
Yeah.
Yes, put in the Kurd, and the straw man's going to be a facade. He just goes, as straw man, I will make an independent Kurdistan, and then just
one of my friends joked about that. He was just put the Kurds in charge, just put all of the Kurds in charge of Iraq, and just be like, okay, it's all
Greater Kurdistan.
Yeah, Greater Kurdistan. It just goes from the entire Middle East. Yeah, no, it's okay. So we talked about best case scenario. I'm not gonna say worst case scenario, because worst case scenario is World War III, and that's dumb to talk about. But most realistic scenario in your mind, what do you imagine would happen in the next week or month? I'll give you time to think about it. If any of you have questions while these guys are thinking, type them in the comments section, and we'll get to them.
All right, so repeat the question. What do we think is just going to happen in general in the next month?
What's the most realistic scenario? How's this going to turn out?
I probably more fist shaking and finger wagging, but things will just be really, 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 really more tense than usual. It'll be like a Cold War type thing.
And we're just gonna pass this off until the next general crisis.
Well, because it's like, what is Iran going to do? Because it is true that if we go to war with Iran, they would win, and if we invade them. But if our focus wouldn't be to overthrow them, but to simply bomb them, destroy their economy, etc., we could still do some serious damage, and they know that. So they, even if they could, fight us off as occupiers, they could still face collapse of
I,
their, economy and their
yeah,
infrastructure and all that stuff. And the question would be whether they would be willing to do that. So unless they can find some sort of way to, I don't know, strike an undefended oil field in an unexpected country or something without like directly starting a war with the United States, I don't see them like that. That's the furthest I could see them wanting to go.
yeah.
The only way I could see this escalating even more is if our moron in chief just, escalates it more, which could happen. I
That
don't know at this point.
that's what. Yeah, I think the most realistic thing for me is that the U.S. is the one that escalates this shit. Um, I can't
I think
imagine it would.
Israel would escalate it.
Yeah, and Israel. Like this just reeks of Israel like trying to, try to push it just a little bit more because Israel, like people aren't talking about it, but they're very very vocal in the stuff that they've been doing. Like there's so
Yeah,
many
but
jets flying past Lebanon.
I would agree, but like they've been so distracted by like the recent political events that have been happening.
Yeah, but it's also the thing is I could imagine if anything's going to happen, I don't think it's going to be an invasion of Iran because I mean hell even the invasion of Iraq that was talked about in like for like a month, that was talked about for a month or two. There's no way that we're just going to go okay invade Iran time. But I could definitely see that the U.S. and Israel expanding this more. Um, and then there's certainly just Iraq descends into a proxy war, and that's it. And you could see more U.S. troops being sort of pushed into Iraq, even though Iraq themselves doesn't want it. It seems like the U.S. is kind of just going, "We're doing this for your sake. We're doing this for freedom," even though Iraq now doesn't want, uh, you know, Iraq not maybe as a just Iraq's government doesn't want the U.S. in there anymore. Um, and then that's just going to
Forget
cause a huge
those
problem.
protests that happened like a few weeks ago. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah, it's all good fun, but that's the
And
thing that I could imagine.
the saddest thing about this is some people have this attitude that if we were to do stuff like this, or we do a regime change war, that we would somehow like like free them from the oppression that's happening, when in reality all it's done is the opposite, because there were starting to be inklings of protests in Iran against the government that were growing, but now that
Yeah,
we've done our thing, all we've done is unify them against us.
this kind of
So
fuck.
we stifled
Yeah,
the thing that could have actually naturally lessened the power of the Ayatollah government or liberalized the country or whatever,
yeah,
and
exactly.
we
That's
just ruined it.
that's the saddest thing. It actually that was my mentality 6 months ago because there were protests in Iran over the headscarves and everything. It seemed like there was actually this awakening with the people. Like the economy was going to shit. There were protests in Tehran. All this shit was happening. Like they were. It seemed like something was happening, and I even said in that video that the U.S. could just put soft power on Iran, and then they would just collapse into a revolution. Maybe not a civil war, but a revolution or something like that. Um, and I also said that if the US does go to war with Iran, it's going to be over the smallest, dumbest thing, the equivalent of a kid hitting you with a baseball so you throw him off a skyscraper. And Trump today said that we are going to attack Iran, even if it's, in his words, even if it's a disproportionate amount. And I laugh so hard because it's so on the nose. So on the nose. Even if you attack us a little bit, we're going to come up with you with everything.
Yeah, did you notice that he was clever and that the number of sites he was going to hit was the same number as the Iranian hostages from all the way back in '79?
It's pottery. It's
Isn't
pottery.
he clever with his 40 chip?
Who writes this shit? Oh my god. I want all this RPG.
This is improv. This is if the normal presidents have authors, Trump has been improv this entire time.
That would make sense.
I think the scariest thing is I was thinking through for a while, and I honestly don't know what could happen because with how chaotic the U.S. regime is right now, I could see Trump backing down and saying I didn't want to do it anyway, and I could see Trump going full football on them. Honestly, both of those sound equally likely in my head because it's just so weird.
I think you know what the best analogy for this is? This entire situation is a pinball machine. And there's tension for a while, and Trump sort of pulled back, the ball. And with assassinating that general, he let it go. And right now, we're in that awkward stage where the ball is bouncing all over the place. Like, none of us have any control over it. And we don't know what Iran's going to do. We don't know what the proxies are going to do. We don't know what Israel's going to do. We don't know what the president himself is going to do or tweet. And the ball right now is just going back and forth and back and forth. And in the next few days, either tomorrow or, later this week, somebody's going to have to press the lever. And it's going to either let the ball drop into the thing and, that's it. Like, the game is just over and, there's nothing happens from this. Or somebody presses the thing and we're back to the chaotic nature again. And it just keeps going until you can't stop.
And the thing is while this is all happening and while we're playing diplomatic games and such, the fate of 38 million Iraqis, I think is the number, and 81 million Iranians are going to be on the line. And the U.S. is already partially responsible for the death of over 1 million Iraqis through their invasion. I just don't.
2020 off to a good start. Oh boy. And what's worse?
January 1st.
What's worse?
The world hasn't blown up yet.
What's worse?
January 2nd. It's
if this actually does somehow escalate, because now, just like you said, Tristan, I have no idea what the fuck is going on anymore. I don't know what could happen in the next hour or whatever, and could completely fundamentally change this entire discussion that we've been having. This live stream will be completely irrelevant by tomorrow.
What's great about all this is that right before all this went down, I was I don't know if anyone knows this, but I write scripts for a YouTube channel called The Cold War, made by the Kings and Generals folks. You guys should watch it. But I just finished a video on a script on the civil defense initiatives. So all of the duck and cover and preparing the American people for the nuclear war. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, this is scary.
Yeah.
And then this happened.
I don't think I can't imagine it would go if Iran somehow does have nukes, which I don't think they do. But the only people, I think the people that would have to worry is definitely Israel. But America, Americans don't have to worry. North America doesn't have to worry or anything like that. But that would be a terrifying thing if there's this localized nuclear war just in the good old Middle East, which is ironic because the Persians are technically the good guys in the Old Testament because they saved the Jews from Babylonians, but whatever. That's fun. And tomorrow's Three Kings Day.
There's also the whole thing where it's the Battle of Armageddon is supposed to be between Persia and Israel.
Yeah.
So it's just oh boy.
If this starts off tomorrow on Three Kings Day, that would be That'd be spooky. Oh boy, but it won't. I mean, it's we're
Maybe,
just
maybe,
we're
maybe
talking.
those random people on the street saying the end was near were onto something.
Maybe Papa John's was right. This is the day of reckoning because
Oh
they
my
changed the formula. Damn it!
Actions have consequences.
Actions have
You
consequences.
see, if Domino's would have announced it, the metaphor would have been too on the nose. It's the fact that it's Papa John.
Somebody's saying good guys LMAO. I mean, we're talking ancient Old Testament. Babylonians. Compared to the Cyrus the Great was Cyrus the Great. Yeah, like he was a good guy. Yeah.
And it sucks because there are several people in high level positions in the U.S. government who actually want that to happen.
Yeah, good old evangelicals. That's fun.
The vice president refers to his wife as mother and won't dine with a woman if she's not present.
What the fuck? That's fun.
Dude, yeah. Mike Pence is intense.
Imagine how so say this actually somehow, because this is probably just gonna die in like 3 days or something like that anyway. But if this did actually end up escalating,
apocalypse.
Shut up. Well, if this did actually end up escalating, even if Trump is deposed, or not deposed, he just loses the election. I'm so used to saying deposed because I talk about history and shit like that. But if he loses the election, whoever the next president is, they're left to clean up the worst clusterfuck since Vietnam.
Although I think that many situations can be diffused by, yeah, sorry about that guy. We all know that it was a bit of a fuck up on our.
Yeah, I mean, God, you couldn't. What could you even do? Say you actually went in. If you legitimately did actually go into Iran, because it's a modern state. I mean, it's it's not compared to Europe or anything, but it's compared to the Middle East, it's a really good state. At least infrastructure wise and shit like that. If you destroy that and then you just go, even if you have somebody who's Bernie or someone who's like, okay, we're gonna get out of there immediately. It's like, oh, we're just gonna leave you, just leave them there. Or there would have to be a period, this whole new Marshall Plan. I would imagine if there's gonna be a president that basically wants to get out of there super easily, it would be trying to do the Marshall Plan while a war is still going on. If you think about it, say we're stuck in that actual situation where we're dealing with an insurrection, still trying to get out of there, but also still trying to rebuild the country. God, that was just this would just tank the 2020s. This would just completely change whatever the Bernie presidency would be, or the Biden or whatever. Just these last few days. That'd be fun.
Well, as long as I get my health care, I'm sure we'll be okay.
Why, you don't like the $2 trillion for the military or the Space Force?
Wait, the what?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't hear anybody talking about how we're gonna pay for this aggressive war against Iran.
No, we just pay for it. That's how it always goes. They just pay for it. But then if you have anything else that isn't,
you see, in this case, it's not about paying for it. It's about the principle of the matter. I
find it so hilarious that they keep saying terrorism too. They're like terrorism and terrorism. It's like if you're fucking Israel or something, then yes, maybe Hezbollah-based terrorism would affect you, but Hezbollah-based terrorism doesn't affect the average American. It never has. That just shows who we're really trying to fucking go to war for. It's like, it's just, God, it's infuriating. It's so infuriating. And it's good. It's all good, people. I'm losing my temper over this. It's all
long good. Live the Ayatollah. Long live President Rouhani.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
One thing I can say about this is
people are gonna clip that, and people are gonna clip
that. One thing I can say is, holy crap, am I happy that Ahmadinejad's not in power right.
Oh, you mean Iranian Bush? Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, because technically the person they have now is more of a reformer
Yeah.
by their standards.
I mean, this kind of. I mean, really, there wasn't a lot of tension between Iran and America for like the last. This just kind of just came out of nowhere, you know. This just kind of, boom, instantly #1 enemy again. Like I thought we were gonna go after Venezuela or some shit like that, but no, just instantly
Well,
Iran.
no, Jack Ryan took care of that.
Oh yeah, Jack Ryan. Thanks, Jack Ryan.
Speaking of things coming out of nowhere, Australia is on fire.
Oh yeah, that good old.
Talking about things that could have easily have been predicted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now it's apparently
like,
the size of the U.S. That's fun. That's good. It's all
yeah,
across.
basically, the firefighters are not able to contain all of the fires that are happening, which have been happening over the past few years, but just more
Oh,
and more every
shit.
year.
Somebody's.
There's some weird thing going on in the world where it seems like these fires and hurricanes just get worse every year. I don't know what
could
it
it
could be.
Yeah, what could it be? I wonder. It's wildfires are probably the most misunderstood natural disaster that there is, because it's like people think, oh, it's a wildfire. It's slow or whatever. No, those things are fucking fast. They're like hurricanes, and if you do not get out, they will kill you and burn you instantly. And it's
Yeah.
Killed something like what, 500 million animals or something already?
Yeah, there's that video of just livestock and everything just dead on the fucking road. It's like a meteor hit. It's like a shockwave of a meteor
And the
hit.
thing is, like, this isn't like the natural type of wildfire that would like happen in a normal forest. That's just a part of the natural cycle. It's the fact that Australia is so dry, and global warming has just made things worse. And so hence why the fires are increasing. Like, they're at a point to where, like, there are government websites you can go to that say all the fires that are going on right now, and there are hundreds of fires going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And they have to get volunteer firefighters from, like, I know they've gotten some from Canada, and I think a few from the United States, and they are not happy at the Australian Prime Minister because he's basically like not given them enough funding or supplies for them to do their job.
It's all freaking ideology because if I remember, the prime minister is a Tory, and the Tory line is that climate change isn't real, so therefore you can't address the climate change related disasters. It's like how in Florida there's like cities that are flooding on a daily basis, and they have a gag rule in the government to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
They're
Pure
like,
ideology.
there are like videos on Twitter and YouTube and stuff that were like recorded by they were originally recorded by like Australian news networks, but they were ordered to cut it from before they went to air, to where basically there are various videos of like the Australian Prime Minister like visiting a town after like a major fire had just happened, and the people there being angry and just like yelling at him and cursing at him and literally driving him away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw
This is
that.
a previous prime minister. There's one where he's in a store and the guy told him to go fuck himself and left.
I mean, shit. If you had to
Australia's
live in
had a lot of prime ministers lately.
I mean, if you had
like,
no, continue. I'm sorry.
oh, sorry, I don't know if there's like a weird connection thing going on.
I think there probably is. Oh no.
But like, people don't pay attention to Australian politics that much, but basically, in case you don't know, Australia has had like 4 to 5 prime ministers over the past 6 to 7 years.
Jesus.
They've basically been,
Do they just keep deposing them?
Well, kind of. So like, here's how the Australian political system works, and I want you to sit down because this is going to sound really weird. So they have the Labour Party and the Liberal Party. However, despite the name Liberal Party, they are not like the Canadian Liberal Party or the Democrats or whatever. The Liberal Party is the Australian center-right party.
And those are the only two.
And
Oh, so they are like the Liberal Party in Canada.
well, no, they're further right.
I don't know. Have you seen the Liberals here?
They are. Yes, I have. They are further right, and there is also their party called the Australian National Party, which is just like a Christian right wing party, basically. And the Christian right wing party and the Liberal Party have been in a general like conservative coalition as a team for like the past like 40-ish years. And so it's basically just Labor and the Liberal Party. And for the past like few elections, like whoever's won has only had like a majority of just like a few seats each time. And there have been multiple scandals of their prime ministers to where they were forced to, for whatever reason, resign or were ousted from party leadership. And so as a result, even though there have only been like 2 or 3 actual elections, there have been like 6 to 7 prime ministers over the past like decade, just because like it just happens so much. So Australia politically has been like very chaotic, so to speak.
Oh
You know
boy.
what's even what will be even scarier than when the right are denying climate change and are basically like more or less responsible for the fact that we're like careening to the edge of a cliff at the fastest speed possible. But I feel like it'll be even scarier once the right get on board with climate change, because then they're going to start being like, let's build walls and keep the brown people from preserving like the last bits of habitable land on Earth and shit.
No,
Oh yeah, that's already happening. That's already happening. That happened
it'll be
in
eco-fascism.
Austria.
That's what it'll
Yeah,
be.
like
It'll
that.
be eco-fascism. Well,
Like that's happening in Austria right now. Like the right wing party in Austria, had a scandal to where the leader had to step down, and so there was an interim government for a while until they were able to reform a government. And the new government is a coalition between the right wing party and the Greens, and their slogan is "We're going to protect you from we're going to protect the environment and you from the immigrants." And
well,
so yeah,
I mean, if you gotta think. This is kind of the funny thing, is that eventually we're gonna get to a time where all young people agree on climate change. They agree it's real, but then you're also gonna have people that differ politically. Like everyone agrees that climate change is real, but then there's also people that agree on it for different reasons. Like, we gotta stop the climate because we gotta protect future generations. And then there's going to be the people that say we gotta stop the climate from changing because it's going to cause a humanitarian crisis when all the migrants come into our borders. So this is going to be a very real thing that will influence future policy. And eco-fascism, that's the term. It's going to be a big thing in 10 to 20 years. And I mean, it's I mean, it's going to vary, it's going to vary by range, but yeah, there are definitely going to be people that are basically going to have the mentality of protecting the environment to stop, Africa and shit from getting destroyed, to protect, the countries at home, stuff like that.
I mean, shit, wasn't that like, just to show how much of a year we've had, not even a year ago, the Christchurch shooter was an eco-fascist.
I mean, you'd be
yeah,
I mean, if you go on 4chan and shit, that's a lot of them are. That's kind of the new Zoomer thing. I mean, if I guess it's kind of like the climate's still. It's good that both sides, I guess, are for climate change in a way. Like they're for it's a real thing and we gotta do something for it. Whatever I guess it's kind of one of those really confusing things that we've never dealt with before. Because it's like, what do you do when both sides agree with it? And,
you just move on to the next thing because that's what happened.
Yeah.
It's like how there are like far right figures who happen to be either of a minority or of a like they're gay or something. And when like 20 years ago that wouldn't have happened, but we've gotten to the point to where most Gen Zers, regardless of their political affiliation, are like at least like minimal
They're not like, I'm
level of acceptance that gay people are a thing and we just have to deal with it
Yeah.
type, like at minimum. And so now you have people like, Milo Yiannopoulos who are, gay far right people, even though that doesn't, you would think that it wouldn't make sense. So it wouldn't surprise me that something like climate change, once we get to the next generation, it just becomes the next matter of fact thing that everyone agrees on, but then we'll fight over the other details.
Honestly, that's kind of heartwarming if you think about it. It'd be that thing that there is at least shit being done, even if they're for different reasons, I guess. Because in the end, I mean, I guess the planet doesn't care who's doing it or whatever the motivations are. I mean, that's for future people to debate and shit. But as long as the climate's being fixed, great. Oh boy.
I mean, I prefer if we didn't do it by like white nationalist and
yeah,
like fascist.
I'm not,
The power.
that would be the preferable thing. But
be
also
real nice.
But also
real nice. We did that.
Also, it'd be worse if they were fascist and also didn't believe it. So it's like shit. I guess.
What are you talking about? We've never been at war with climate change outside the walls of Basi and say you're.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, I guess we are coming on to an hour. I guess does anyone have any good old questions for us? And I guess we can kind of just start wrapping this up a little bit. The fun. Let's see. I'm looking through all.
This is a good one that comes from the hashtag STH on Twitter.
Hmm.
We all know Tiger Star wants World War III to happen so he can get a new map. What universe would you prefer, Fallout or Metro?
The sad thing is I have never played either of those games, so I know nothing about.
Boo.
I'm sorry. I could literally count the number of games I actively play with like one hand.
Wow. Tiger Star's not a gamer. Let's see how it is. No, that's I would say Fallout. Fallout's the more interesting thing for me, at least, because Metro really, a lot of the lore is just in small specific parts of the cities and stuff. I mean, there's bigger parts of it too, but Fallout has such bigger lore specifically about the United States and all that stuff, and I don't know, I find that more interesting. So
I'd be interested to see if like you've seen an uptick in your Fallout videos.
Oh,
yeah, I need to make a video related to Iran at some point within like the next month, so I can get that sweet
We're fucking vultures, guys. We're all fucking vultures.
We are.
When World War III is about to happen, but you fucking have to
Look,
make that ad revenue. Great.
I need to get the ad revenue so I can have enough gas to flee to Canada, okay?
That's what it is. Become a refugee. That works.
No, I've got some Canadian friends who could vouch for me to help acquire citizenship.
That works. I wouldn't say it's vulture. I would say that it's the thought is like in the collective mindset. Like everyone's thinking of it, so it's like, hey, I'm gonna make a video of it. I am not gonna make another Iran video because I've made enough like Iran and Middle East videos. I think that was 2019's theme, was just the Middle East and talking about that. I've talked about that way too much. But yeah, if any of you guys want to take a crack at it, that'd be fun.
I made an Iran video about back in 2018, but I don't know. Next week's video is locked in.
Yeah,
it's going to be about gender. I'm sure the chat will love that one. And then when that comes out, we'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
We'll see if we have a world left to make the next video.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I actually, God, this last week actually fucked my schedule because I was working on a video. I'm working on a video about the 2010s as a whole, and doing specific alternate scenarios from them. So, shit like the Arab Spring. What if that never happened? Trump.
What if the conflict with Iran would have escalated?
Yeah, what if the conflict of Iran would have escalated? Oh, what if we didn't die immediately 3 days after? But this change in itself, I'm kind of have to put a delay on the video. I'm kind of like checking updates all the time because whatever happens hour by hour on this stupid situation changes so much on both of those topics, on if Trump was elected and if the Arab Spring never happened. So I'm kind of just getting held by the balls right now by geopolitics, because it's like, shit, if I release this video and, something does happen, then that completely changes all of it. So thanks, everyone, for just making my life a lot harder. That really helps. The memes are good.
My next video is about pirates.
About pirates? What about pirates?
There was a time in the 1700s in which the pirates effectively formed an unofficial republic on one of the islands in the Bahamas because they basically bribed the government to just ignore them.
Oh, which island?
It was the one that the Nassau was on, the capital.
Oh.
In the Bahamas.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah, that seems like it.
Yeah.
The island of Tortuga, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and in the video, I basically 2 to 3 minutes of it is going to be me explaining the difference between all of the words that we use for pirates, but are technically different things. So like pirate, picaroon, corsair, buccaneer, privateer, raider, like all of those words, how marauder, how we use them all for pirates, but they all are slightly different.
Well, it sounds like a good thing to look forward to.
Somebody asked something about the pirates being white nationalists, and I just wanted I don't care about that, but I want to point out that pirates had very often multiracial ships, and the amount of egalitarianness on those ships was unprecedented and quite amazing for their...
They basically had like libertarian socialist communes, except on a ship.
I mean, if you're living on a fucking ship far from law and everything, I doubt you're going to care about the type of hands that are going to be helping you, as long as they're hands. So it's like, yeah, that's not.
Plus, everyone who became a pirate was rejected from something.
Yeah, that worked. But I guess we'll end it on this one good thing. Good old American politics. Hot damn. Let's please do that. Somebody said thoughts on next month's caucus, because we're getting to that now. Hell,
it's looking good. It's looking good for our boy.
Bernie just pulled ahead in Iowa and Vermont, and he is closing in on Biden nationally. It's pretty great.
He's ahead, and he's ahead in the New Hampshire, and he's ahead in Iowa, and just
Warren's collapsed. Pete has really stalled. Andrew Yang got called out on a bunch of things. It's been pretty great.
I'm shocked Tulsi's still in. She's still holding out.
I'm not.
She didn't qualify for the debate, and she's gone like full fucking like takedown mode.
Yeah, I mean, especially the vote and doing the abstain thing. That's not good for your presidency at all. So, no boy.
Also, the presidential candidate that I was backing, unfortunately, fired all of her staff except for herself, and is now campaigning solo. So, if we could put an F in chat for the Orb Mom.
Oh,
Marianne Williamson.
Oh, she's still in? She's still in? Holy shit.
Of course she just recently fired every single staff member who's not her.
Oh my god.
So it's going great. I still have belief.
Yeah.
I think my vote is the only reason why she's still on the chart.
Once she dunked Dave Rubin, I mean there was it was the only direction was.
She's the Democrat Jeb Bush. So it'll be great.
Orb emojis in chat.
She'll bring back
our Orb Mom.
She'll bring back the Byzantine Empire. It'll be good.
I will say though, if you guys are turning 18 soon, you better register to vote. And as for the primaries, expect the primaries to probably not drag out as long as in 2016, because Super Tuesday, which is only on March 12th.
Oh god.
I think like early-ish March. That has both California and Texas.
Yeah, it'll be pretty settled by the time that happens. For the record, by the way, just want to let you all know that our boy,
Bernie's winning in
my
California.
boy,
Yeah.
my boy is winning in California and in Nevada. So right now he is at 3 of the 4 Super Tuesday, pre-Super Tuesday states, and the one that he isn't, he's closing in fast.
Wait. Oh wait, never mind.
He's closing in on Biden in North Carolina or South Carolina.
Damn.
One of the Carolina.
I really wonder if, okay, so say Bernie does win. Bernie wins the primary. Do you feel like I actually, you know what? This is a dumb fucking question to ask, because this year is gonna be so long. We don't know what anyone's reputation is gonna be.
Yeah, I gotta warn you guys. This year is, from what we've seen so far, like this year it's already been like 2 years, and it's January 5th. So
yeah.
this year is gonna be like at least 50 years long.
This is kind of like the author felt like the end of the decade dragged, so they're just like, okay, the next book, we're just gonna have everything fucking just happen at the same time. Nobody's gonna get bored. It's gonna be.
There's a quote by Lenin that is, there are decades where weeks happen, and weeks where decades happen, and I think he was thinking exactly about this year.
I'm excited. I mean, from a history standpoint, this is actually this is juicy. This is I'm getting popcorn.
Plus, like they say, as you get older, time flies by faster. Well, I guess that's not going to happen with us.
This extends our lives. We got all the boring shit out of the way. Now we're in
although it does equal out with all the stress that we'll probably get.
There's a Chinese proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times."
Yeah, that classic one.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I swear to God.
Well, that's a good way to fucking. I'm gonna end the stream right there. Just angry that you pulled that good old quote up. No, but as somebody's saying, Emperor Tiger Star 2020, I agree too. Tiger Star, you should run. Please do.
I am too young to run.
You can
listen. We've tried everything. Why not try a bisexual cat?
No, sorry, 12 years.
That's the perfect quote for it. You've tried everything. Why not a bisexual cat? Oh boy. Well, anyway, I think this was a good way.
Vote for Emperor Tiger Star today.
I'll be the.
I won't be the first person to campaign for president in a helmet.
Yeah, it might give off the wrong vibes, being a Prussian helmet, but I think people will get the gist of it. It'll be fine.
It'll trick the warmonger vote.
Yeah, the warmonger. God. But anyway, I think this is good. At least an interesting live stream to start the decade off on. Oh boy, that's a lot of stuff to talk about. But anyway, we'll be back next week. There's gonna be a lot of shit to talk about next week as well. Guarantee it. If we don't die, we're not gonna die, but it's fun to joke about. So anyway, I'm Cody.
I'm Emperor Tiger Star.
I'm Tristan Stepakashaka.
And so that happened, and is continuing to happen. Oh God, I hope we don't die.
Oh, that